It's time for todaysstocks.com with host Pat Bolland.
Joining me now is William Corbett. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Innovative Payment Solutions Incorporated. And Bill, tell me about your background. Can you give me an overview of your company and why you actually joined it?
Yeah, absolutely. Pat, thank you, first of all, for having me and the ability to tell our story. Big fan of your show, so thank you very much for that.
My pleasure.
I've really spent my entire career in San Francisco. I had over 30 years experience on Wall Street, lived during an incredible time, this technology revolution that we've seen for the last 30 years in San Francisco and really the world for that matter. But I had the great privilege, Pat, of working with KKR. We did a lot of business with KKR, the prolific private equity shop, watched the way they build companies, very smart guys, hired incredible talent. I also had a big passion for microcaps, which I worked with over 1,000 CEOs. And from that experience, I feel like, it basically was one of those worked my whole life to get to this moment. And hopefully that wisdom carries over in building this company. And as far as the reason I joined this enterprise is I took it public. I found it fascinating. The original model was to take it public and raised millions of dollars to build out the Mexican market to serve the underserved with digital payments in Mexico, which we can get into a little bit later. But I really enjoy helping small companies to see if we can get them to grow into bigger companies.
And you've got some innovative products that we'll talk about in a second. But before we do that, when you think about the world of fintech, there are so many big, well-known names and companies. How do you intend to differentiate yourself?
Yeah, that's a question that comes up a lot. It's a good one, because we're small. But, like I said, I joined the company really with the thought that there really weren't addressing some of the global issues that we saw in working with the underserved in Mexico. The business for 4 years did well. We had 2 million Mexicans using it on a regular basis. We felt like a pivot to California and building a fintech was appropriate on the knowledge and the experience that we had in understanding the global problem. And in doing so, we recognized that, yes, there's some phenomenal companies, PayPal, Western Union with the bricks and mortar. But with technology advancing, we saw an opportunity to bring to this segment of underserved. And I'm not discriminating. We welcome Gen Z. We welcome you and I to use the platform. But the reality is that this probably the largest segment in the world is being underserved. And we thought we had solutions to these problems, and we're excited to go build it out. And love to tell you about some of that and why we're so excited about what we're building.
Indeed. My understanding is that you plan an initial kind of a rollout of the universal digit marketplace platform. That's going to be in the US or in Mexico. And how do you see that playing out over time?
Yeah, so what we're doing really is we're building a universal digital platform here in America. We're going to roll it out shortly. With the premise that we're going to bridge the divide, Pat. So if we look at the underserved or the unbanked and the underbanked, they all have telephones, right? And what they really are missing is bank accounts. So what if we could create the technology that exists today and bridge the gap between the telephone that they use every day and the ability to turn that into a bank in their hand? And therefore, IPSI becomes the conduit that really is the freeway, and we could be a toll charger that would benefit to our shareholders and benefit a market that doesn't have access to the digital payment world. And we thought, that would be really compelling that around the globe, of course, we want to focus on Mexico. It is by far a ripe market for our shareholders. There's $4 billion a month going down there on money remittance. And a lot of that is used through bricks and mortars, MoneyGram and Western Union. PayPal's done a really good job to really infiltrate into that market share. But we see it as an unbelievable golden opportunity for our shareholders to bridge that divide, to give these unbanked and underbanked, underserved people here in California the ability to use our platform to make payments to Mexico, to utility companies there, or topping off cell phones, or buying microloans, and making bill payments, and really using our technology to make it more convenient, more affordable, and more important, rapid settlements, which we can talk about, as we get along.
Okay, but we talk about online banking, and then, as you point out, bricks and mortar. You're kind of bridging those as well. You're introducing the concept of a kiosk. How do those work? First off, and then I'll ask you to explain some more of the benefits.
Yeah, so we have this vast amount of knowledge that we accumulated over 3 to 4 years in Mexico, when we deployed about 750 kiosks, did about 11 million in revenue in 2019. We sold that business, and when we did, I was asked to come join the company and run it and help build it here in California. And we saw this opportunity because the kiosks actually operate as a portal. They actually give you a conduit into the system, because the major problem, Pat, if you look at the unbanked or the underserved, whatever we want to call them, they can't get money in the system. Hardest thing is, they're left out. And with that is the inconvenience of getting a check, running around town to cash it. Then they get to go the privilege of going to a bricks and mortar Western Union. By the time they're done, the $100 turns into 70 to their relatives back home. And that doesn't seem very fair to us. We think in this day and age that we're inclusive to all. We think it's really important that we treat everybody with kindness and compassion, and give them the same opportunity that we all have using this digital platform. So to do that, there's a couple ways the kiosk operates to get money in the system, which is magical. They can walk up to the kiosk, they can put money in it, they can then therefore have it be stored on a digital wallet. They can have a prepaid credit card. They can send money on normal money remittance with a partnership that we have, or they can send it through the dollar-backed coin, which is what we're using as far as the cryptocurrency and blockchain. We think blockchain is an incredible opportunity for us. It didn't really exist when we were building the operations in Mexico. So the idea is, how do you get money into the system for this large group of people? In California, we could be talking as much as 10 to 15 million people. And the other way we get the money in the system is what we call IPSI payroll. And the magic behind IPSI payroll is it's good for the employer, it's good for the employee, and it's good for us and our shareholders. And what does that mean? What it means is we provide an API network that allows the business person into our system. He ACHs or she ACHs the money on let's call it salary of their employee onto our system. That person now has access to a digital wallet with money that was ACH'd every week, every other week. So he doesn't, or she doesn't have to run around town to cash that check. Now they have money in the system either through the payroll or through the kiosk. And we think that makes their life a lot easier. We think that they'll gravitate toward this in large quantities. And this will be the first time that these large amounts of people, probably one of the biggest in the world as a segment, have access to, in our opinion, a digital wallet and the ability to send borderless payments, which, yes, we're starting in Mexico, but we see this as an opportunity for our shareholders around the globe.
So you've become de facto then a full service, high-end service provider to the underbanked, and including cryptocurrencies. That's extremely innovative.
It really is. And the blockchain and the crypto have just given another dimension. It's almost turbocharged our business plan when we moved to California, because if we spent a lot of time with our technology people. What we're doing is we're about to launch what we call the dollar-backed stablecoin, the IPSI dollar-backed stablecoin. And what does that mean? What it enables is the consumer on the digital wallet to buy our dollar-backed coin. It gets sent to Mexico. So let's assume a consumer spends $100 to buy our coin. It travels to Mexico. It settles in any currency. So we can settle it in pesos. And what it does is it turns around and settles blockchain against a custodial account here in America that an institution we've publicly announced has committed up to $5 million to settle our blockchain transactions. But the reality is, when one sends money abroad, it can take normal, brick and mortar companies can take as much as 2 or 3 days. It's taken that for us to send to contractors across the country and the world. So if we can settle a dollar-backed coin immediately, and the recipient of the family member in Mexico on the last mile has all kinds of different places to get the money, but more important, it settles quickly and it settles efficiently on blockchain. And more importantly, it's affordable. So instead of going to your traditional routes and the inconvenience, we can settle it for 5% exchange rate. So every $100, it doesn't cost the sender anything to send the money. But when the recipient gets it, they get $95 out of every 100. That's a really good opportunity for both the family member and the recipient.
Yeah, you're democratizing banking, it sounds to me, and that represents a tremendous opportunity. If you had your best case or a magical wand, what do you envision?
Well, it's interesting. I was in a conference yesterday. It was virtual, of course, these days. However, Steve Wozniak was the speaker. And, in my days in San Francisco, I've seen some incredible CEOs and innovators, and he's one of the top of the list. What I took away was he's brilliant, of course, but there's a humanitarian aspect to everything he does. It's an underlying current, and he said he didn't want to be in upper management because he wants to treat people kindly. Not that CEOs treat people poorly, but I think you could be a good CEO and you could treat people fairly, but he said, basically we're in a world where you really want to treat people nicely and compassionately. And look, I kind of view us as a modern day Robin Hood, and not that we're stealing from big banks or bricks and mortar, but I think we're taking away market share. We're going to gobble large amounts of market share for them. And in return, we're going to give an opportunity that doesn't really exist to this underserved market. And I think we'll save them money, and I think it'll make everyone win. I mean, our shareholders win, the consumer wins, the businesses that are on our payroll system win, and I think it'll feel good. And I think if I wave my wand, several years from now, I think we would hopefully have a $500 million to $1 billion publicly traded company. We would focus on profits, the underserved, and any served. We'll serve anyone. All inclusive, and we would strive for profits, compassion, and really solving a worldwide problem that brings this population into the digital world like we all use and take for granted every day. And I think that would feel really good from a humanitarian effort. I think the shareholders would benefit, and I think the consumers would benefit at the same time. It's a win-win-win.
Win-win-win indeed. Bill, a great story. Thank you so much for telling us.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
William Corbett, Chief Executive Officer of Innovative Payment Solutions Incorporated.
Good deal. Thanks.